today we got Bill on the show with us. Bill's got three different investment categories. You do second mortgage note investing, is that correct? And
That is my full-time investment concentration and business. We basically buy institutional, residential, reperforming and non-performing second mortgages, like I said, on residential properties throughout the country.
okay, yeah. So you got your own portfolio, is that correct? You got People's Debt Relief Solutions, which is one asset of your business, and then you also have your PMR II, which I guess it helps people who purchase those seconds and need help restructuring the deal. Or if you could just talk about, I guess, which one is kind of like the main category you work in, and give us a little more information on that.
Nah, absolutely. So, I just shared with you really what the full investment strategy is and what my full concentration is. There are also investors, and I've also have done some non-performing first and performing first. A completely different entity, which we can talk about later, but I'm going to get back on track. So, I have a few businesses, and they're all oriented around this. So, People's Debt Relief Solutions is just my own portfolio. It's Bill McCafferty's portfolio with his own private investors. I buy non-performing and reperforming seconds. I'm a onesie, twosie guy. I don't buy big pools of loans like the big funds and all. But I'll buy one or two. I just committed to buying two reperforming loans in Ohio on Friday. I've been building that probably, I guess my first note was '08 that I bought in that portfolio. So I've been
Nice.
building that, and it's just, it kind of does its thing. I try not to pull from it. I try to let it just keep spinning and spinning and spinning. And what I mean by that is continuously putting the profits back in, never pulling out of it. When I get a refinance or a payoff, I buy more. I do small note partials with investors and collateral assignments, or two investment strategies that I use with my investors that we could talk about also. But once again, they're two things that I could talk all day on: collateral assignments and note partials. So that is, like I said, that's my own company. That company owes money, and it also owns a lot of assets. People's Mortgage Relief 2, PMR II. I was in another company, People's Mortgage Relief. So when I left my partners, it was just easy to add a two onto a new LLC, open it up. It just kind of made things run smooth for us when we split up.
Sure.
So PMR II is a very powerful company. PMR II has managed over 1,000 delinquent seconds for other note investors throughout the country. If I add up all the investors, it's probably a little over 100 different investors. At every level, they could have hired me to work a couple of them. Right now, I work two big funds. If I threw those names out there, people would absolutely know who they are. They're my two biggest clients right now. I manage a lot for them. Right now, PMR II manages about 180 seconds. And that's, like I said, that's an asset management company. So that doesn't own anything, but doesn't owe any money.
Nice.
Not to get sidetracked, but that's actually PMR II is taxed as an S corp.
Okay.
My whole world runs through my S corp.
Okay.
So PMR II is a commission-based service fee pay model. So how I get paid is I get an upfront fee from an investor to manage the file. And when I say manage, I got good at working these out. So I'm just a component for these investors, but a powerful component. We hire loan servicers, we hire foreclosure attorneys. We hire document companies. So an investor would hire me as an asset manager. But what I do is I come in and manage everybody. And I know what needs to get done to get these things to the finish line and get paid. And I just know how to manage a lot of different scenarios, from bankruptcies to short sales, to foreclosures, to opposing attorneys, litigation, everything in between. But the power of that company is it doesn't owe any money to anybody, and it doesn't own anything. So a lot of my sweat equity and my efforts throughout the week are in PMR II.
Okay. So that's like the service element of your business then.
You got it. So I'm not technically like a licensed servicer. I'm more of just a third party asset manager that comes in, manages servicing, manage the attorneys, and try to get the investor paid. So
So what's your typical deal look like for that? Because I mean, yeah, like you talked about you work with a lot of different people. Do you work with smaller investors too? Let's say I'm just a small time investor. I made a stupid mistake. I bought a second note. It's not performing. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to work it out. Can I just hire you just to do one note, or do I have to have 10? Or how does that work?
we're gonna anybody that would like to run anything through me, we're gonna have a good conversation. Not even about what I do, more about what this business is, what the true results are, what truly can happen. We're going to look at real data and real statistics, and then we're going to determine, if we're a fit.
Right.
I'm not a guy to sit around and call on the phone and send letters. You know, you're a lender now, so you follow the rules and the regulations. You got to be compliant. It's all about the foreclosure process. And, we're buying loans that have been banged up. You can call them whatever you want, non-performing, scratch and dent. Um, you know, I always tell people when you get into this business, don't get fixated on what you're owed. Remember what you bought it for, where you're at, and where you're going. Um, just a little bit of a feedback for investors out there, because we all get greedy. But
Sure.
I mean, every level, man. I mean, we buy stuff. I mean, you can buy a delinquent second, a $9,000 delinquent second. You can buy a $500,000 delinquent second. And when I say 500,000, let's just say the loan balance is 500. Of course, you're getting it for a discount.
Right.
But I mean, I've seen people buy a non-performing second for $1,000, and I've seen 80,000, 90,000 spent on some of these bigger ones. They're all, our main strategy is to buy a delinquent second behind behind a performing first mortgage.
Okay.
That is like the biggest variable that you really can't control, but it needs to be paid and situated for you to survive. So it's actually one of the harder things for a hands-on property investor or even a first mortgage investor. In the second space, it's a game of patience, and there's a lot of things you can't control. You just have to manage it in real time. And that's where a lot of people kind of get frustrated and go wrong in this business, because you just can't speed it up.
Right.
So, you're going to reach out to me and we're going to talk about all the scenarios and the results. And right now, my numbers tell me 1 out of 2 work out normal. The other 50% could be a loan that pays here and there. You got to keep restructuring it. Maybe they sell the house, maybe bankruptcy, maybe you agree to something that's not great, but just to get out whole.
Right.
There's a lot of scenarios. I'm a big advocate in this space. I always preach, at least with the seconds, it's more about the portfolio than like the deal itself. We always get fixated on like one deal as an investor, like it's got to change our life, and we got to make a lot of money off one deal, and the business is real and the results are real. Just be smart. A lot of the processes and systems in place are to get the people out and determine what's really back there, what they have, what they can afford, and all that stuff. But I want you to be comfortable with the business and the results and how we're going to go about it. And then the last 5 minutes of my call may be a pitch of, this is my service. If you would like to use it, don't feel like you have to. I'm still here.
Sure.
Respect my time. And a lot of the things I have in place, like a little bit of an education program, was more about, it's a tough thing to figure out as you really start maneuvering through real estate and business. And at first you think you got to like work for people by adding value. It's not really about that. So from my end, I was spinning my wheels, wasting a lot of time with people. And it was more about, let me put this out here. If you're serious, here's a course for $1,000 that's made me, ridiculous amounts of money that I put together. And if you're serious about it, learn it, add some value to me, and I'm all here. Do you have to take it? Am I pitching it to you? Absolutely not. Same thing with my other services. I mean, the stuff that I sent you in that email that I sent you, changed it up for you, but it's a pretty carbon copy email that I send to everybody that I talk to.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's another thing for those who don't know. I mean, you got your Note Fortunes LLC, which is your own personal training program for people who are looking to get into the business. I've not taken that course myself, as I don't actually invest in seconds currently, but it looks really interesting. If you want to just touch on that briefly, I guess what everything that they teach about and kind of
Once again, it's just it's all me. It's about 14 hours of me talking. It's access to everything that I use. I don't want to say I'm a dinosaur or old school, but a lot of my tech savvy ways have been learned through this business. So, I operate a little slow. I use Excel, not slow. Everything has to be efficient. I mean, speed is very important, but
sure.
I use Dropbox, Excel. It's a
Those are the
funny,
best ones, man.
yeah, it's a funny business. I see people diving in here looking for software and spreadsheets. I mean,
Nah, it just eats up your cash, man.
yeah, man. So I try to keep the cost very, very low. But it was years in the making. A lot of people have asked me to put something out. I've been back and forth on it because I understand in real estate and the whole guru and that whole thing. And if you're
Yeah,
putting a course out there, you're not making money. And I mean, there's people in my business that are selling mentoring courses for $25,000 to $75,000.
yeah, it's
I
ridiculous.
couldn't sleep at night knowing that I do that.
No, no.
And I've actually been in a few partnerships and it just didn't work out because that's what they wanted. And I couldn't, that's just not who I am. So after finally getting it out there and letting it settle in, I am going to restructure it probably a little bit, maybe make it a little higher. I have a 6 month support group on Facebook. I think I'm going to probably get rid of that and maybe do some more calls.
Okay.
But I can tell you this, the course was put out from a guy that already came from the rat race, dug deep into his life, went and found major investors, started doing exactly what they did, do this thing full time. I take care of my family. I support my family, got a kid going to college.
Nice.
Very, very powerful business. We live within our means. I could talk for 48 hours on this.
Well, sure, man.
You know what I mean? But the reality is I wanted to put a course out because a lot of the people that you see in business, it's all the beginning stuff.
Right.
And that just screams new me because you haven't been here.
Right.
And I feel like I've went through the whole thing.
Sure.
And I laid it out. So it's, there's some things I might only talk for a half hour on, and you're going to want a lot more. But I think it's a pretty solid, start to show you, from setting up an LLC with the right mindset to, managing a portfolio notes and everything
Sure.
in between. So that's it. That's a very small component. And that's more of a set and forget. But, I will tell you, majority of the people that have taken the course, some of them have utilized me to the fullest. They respect my time. I've become great friends with them. And it's what I tell them from the beginning. If you add value, like I'm not going anywhere. I'm just a normal guy and I love to give back. I mean, a lot of people have given to me.
Right.
But yeah, I could never go in the direction of the heavy mentoring. I just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many people out there who just, I'm not going to name names, but they aren't even really that successful. They've made all their money just off the mentoring, and maybe done one or two deals. But, to speak to your credibility, I mean, what, PMR II's done what, over 1,000 restructuring on the seconds. Is that correct?
Yeah, PMR II is managed over 1,000. It's probably only, like I said, one out of two is what really
Comes through.
yeah, but I mean, to me, when you're managing bankruptcies and short sales and the foreclosure, that's more difficult than restructuring. And
Right.
I've always say, like, when you get into this business, this half is easy to restructure them to get payoffs and to play hardball, but over here is the people that survive because they learn how to get creative. They don't get greedy. And so, like, even PMR II, I told you, I mentioned that I work for two big funds. The one is basically my normal contract that I sent you. But the other investor I actually I cater just to him. I just do his loss mitigation.
Okay.
I just deal with the homeowner when the homeowner calls out to resolve it. And I don't even call them. I just put together some options based off some financials that were sent through the servicer. I put the options together. The options go back through the servicer or the attorney. So they're trying to limit my risk because it's over the last 4 or 5 years, compliance and regulations really have stormed into this business. I always joke around about it, but, nobody expected a guy like Bill McCafferty in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, to be sitting on as much institutional debt as he is,
Right.
without any license or regulations.
Right.
So I used to call it the Wild West, it felt like. Not that you were doing anything wrong, but it was, when we were starting this, nobody was, invested in delinquent seconds.
Right, right.
Um,
So yeah, I mean, if you can, I guess we're kind of going around backwards, but if we can just get started, I guess, on how you got started in seconds. I think most people kind of go into first. Um, I think you were working at a school, is that correct? You and your wife. I think from other interviews I've listened to you.
yeah, so just a quick one to kind of put the pace to where I am. So for close to 16 years, I worked at a school for court committed kids.
Okay.
But they also had, it was kind of run like a regular school. So they had athletic programs.
Nice.
I took care of athletic fields and ran an athletic shop. So cool job. Did well there. But just hit that rut in life where you start weighing, where you're at and, am I getting the most out of it? Am I accepting this? And is this really what I, want to do? Is there really any upside here? Seeing some other friends with some successful businesses and doing their passion. Like I said, the wife also was a teacher at another school. But the business has allowed us to do our thing. So did a lot of soul searching. 2006, bought my first investment property. Anything that I do, I go full tilt. I'm very aggressive. I just always feel like I don't have much to lose from where I came from.
Sure.
So I made the leap in I made the leap to leave the school in 2011, but from 2006 to about 2010, did a lot of bought rentals, tried some rehabs, bought beachfront properties. Just did a lot of crazy stuff. A lot of things worked out, a lot of things didn't. Met some good people, met some people that weren't so good, but also started learning that I didn't really like property. And I came across these investors that were very knowledgeable. They were in a partnership. There was a lot of people that I knew and things around that all said that, these were real people. The one, it's Partners for Payment Relief, which is Dave Van Horn, Bob Pollis, John Sweeney, and even at the time, Steve Lloyd was a fourth partner. They're all big players in the real estate game. So I'm going to say it was 2008. They had their mentor speak one night at a local real estate group, and it just blew my mind. He was talking about investing in these delinquent second mortgages. It blew my mind. And it just, from that day on, that's where it all started going. I took these guys had a course, and they were just starting to roll in. And what was cool was, now like the saying is, if you're going to take a course or you're going to take some education, don't buy anything off those people. And I kind of agree with that, but it's funny because a lot of people that are on my level that started learning this thing in Southeastern Pennsylvania, PPR put us all in great positions. They weren't selling. And that was what was interesting about this business is they weren't selling bad stuff. They were actually selling the best stuff because you can get the top dollar for it. And actually where the returns are made in this business are with the stuff that doesn't look pretty.
Right.
And that's big time misconception. People come in, they want to find like the perfect note. I'm investing in delinquent seconds where people stop paying, and we just went through an economy crash, and then we just went through COVID. So like, there's nothing perfect out there.
Sure. Sure.
So it just all started just opening my mind, and I started buying a little bit with some cash that I had, took out a home equity line of credit. We did half in notes, half in property. And it just all started happening. The wife was a full-time school teacher, so she was able to keep the benefits and all that stuff. She's always been supportive of me, trying to get more. So I left the school in 2011, jumped into a partnership with two people right away. And how that partnership kind of formed was two young local investors that were starting to introduce themselves to the business too. Heard about me, asked if I would manage some of their assets. I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. So we kind of put an agreement together, and they just wanted to see that it was real. And, you know, within a year, they knew it. So we formed a partnership, went out on our own. I was in a partnership for 2 years with them. I'll never change. I would never trade it back. It put me in the best position. When we separated, it was more of just growth and respect.
Right.
You know, my ex-partners are 12 to 15 years younger than me. So when we met, they were just, they could sacrifice a lot. You know, they could, you know, you sacrifice a lot when you raise money because you're paying
Sure.
your investors. So to me, it was more about right then and now that I got to get this thing working. Like, I got 2 kids and a wife at home. The wife's working a full-time job. She's kind of starting to go, you know, is this thing going to really work for us?
Sure.
So it was exciting. I take a lot of pride in the fact that, you know, she retired before she was 40.
That's awesome.
You know, we have like I said, my son's 18, freshman in college. My daughter's a sophomore in high school. So we just got to get them kind of out and situated. And then, like I said, we're pretty easy people. We were talking earlier. I love live music. Not a flashy guy myself, man. You know, this is my office attire, a fish t-shirt every day. But nah, the business is definitely has changed our life dramatically. I mean, even before I was about to jump on the call, I kind of throw tidbits out at the kids just so they hear it. My daughter and wife were upstairs, and I just, you know, reminded my wife in front of my daughter that, you know, the biggest thing that we have is time right now. Like, I don't even, you know, the money
Yeah.
is money's powerful, dude. You need money. Money rules. Money makes everything easier, but it's
Right.
about the time. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody gave you all the time and just, you know, told you, you know, here's some money when you need it, yeah, we would all do it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's like really, you know, inspiring thing to see, kind of like you talking about that. You know, a lot of guys make it big and they just, you know, they buy a bigger car, bigger house, bigger whatever, and they just, you know, all spend it on flashy things. Really, it's just killing it, you know. It's killing their lifestyle because then they have to keep working to keep up that lifestyle instead of, like you said, you know, you're spending time with your kids. I mean, that's something you can't buy back, right? That's the most important thing.
Man, you know, I always throw this out because this is a big part of where it all went. So, you know, we formed this kind of partnership. We started raising money. And what that company did was we started buying loans, selling loans, and then I had my services that investors could hire me to manage their stuff. So it was pretty powerful. They were buying stuff from our one entity and hiring this entity. So what got very powerful with that is my mentor, Dave Van Horn, formed another good relationship with another real deal guy in the business. He is, I don't want to say a guru, but he's an educator, but he's the real deal, Eddie Speed, down in Texas. He's a big note investor.
Hmm.
They do a lot of seller financing, creative financing. But the power of what happened with me was, you know, I was that poster child for PPR. I took their course. It's becoming real for me. I left my 9 to 5, likable person. So Dave met Eddie, and Eddie loved what Dave and them guys were doing with these mini pools of seconds. So Eddie sent his students to PPR to start buying loans. And they asked Dave, like, you know, we love the concept, but we don't know what to do with them. And he would throw my name out there. And that thing alone just went, and it just took off. And it was all, I take a lot of pride in, it's all word of mouth. My marketing. I mean, even PMR II. I mean, I outsource a lot of stuff, but I don't really have like an assistant or anything.
Right.
You know, PMR II probably could handle, you know, maybe another 80 loans, but above 250, I just would be out of my comfort zone.
Sure.
And then you start talking to yourself, well, do you ramp up, and is it worth it? Right? Because I have real good friend that I grew up with, and I'm really good friends with. He's actually registered with the SEC, runs a big financial fund, all that good stuff. And I watch him grow, and it's like, you know, there's times he'll tell me, like, you know, I've taken on another $50 million,
Whew.
but I'm not making any more because the infrastructure has to be built to be able
Sure.
to handle. So and he has that little bit of, I want to conquer and get bigger.
Yeah.
Whereas, some people are okay right there, and that's the power of this business. And that's what's been pretty cool is, the levels. Because even me, like I said, I work for these two big clients. I have other friends that are in the business at all different levels. So that's what's cool.
Yeah. And you can always scale if you wanted to, obviously there's always that cost of scale, but 4 or 5 years down the road, if you want to ramp up, maybe your kids are in college or whatever, you can always jump back in. So that's really awesome. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about I guess, you have your own portfolio. Do you allow private investors to invest with you? Like let's say obviously you got your course. So if I want to get started into seconds, I'm going to take that course if I want to do it kind of myself. But let's just say like I'm a corporate executive. I got maybe $200,000 and I want to invest with you. Is that something that you do, that you take on private investors as well, or?
So once again, we'd have a great conversation.
Right.
And this is just what I do at every level. And, I take a lot of pride in it, and I'm very blessed that I'm able to do what I'm about to share with you. We would look at your picture, what do you want to do with the 200 grand? Here's what I do.
Right.
I just mentioned 4 guys that formed that company PPR, and I mentioned the one partner that left, and he's the biggest money guy I know in the United States. And it's like, the money's there everywhere.
Always.
But what do you want to do? So, a guy like that, to fit my business model, anybody that buys delinquent seconds, I always say you want to keep about 30% as your back office, for your legal fees, any other fees, servicing fees. And what I mean by that is if you had 100 grand, 70 will buy notes, 30 is going to be your back office.
Okay.
You got 200, let's go 140, 150 and sit on 50 or 60. You just have to do it. You got to be liquid. And we would talk about it. My business model is you would go buy a bunch of non-performers and hire me to work them.
Right.
Do you want to do what I do? Like, even though I'm a non-performing note buyer, PDRS probably between so I have PDRS, I have 3 IRAs, I have an HSA, and I have an inherited IRA. So I have 4 IRAs, an HSA, and PDRS. They all buy notes.
Okay. That's a lot. Yeah.
But PDRS is the only LLC. Everything else is an IRA or like a health savings account that's building for later.
Sure.
And that's the power of this business, because it can fill every bucket that you can imagine. The only thing I don't control is I'm a life insurance guy too. I play the whole universal life index. I'm crazy with that stuff too. So a lot of people don't like it, but I don't look at it as an investment. Like, I got my investment. That's my pension and security for later in life.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I get sidetracked all the time, dude.
No,
I love talking
awesome.
about the business. So it's more about seeing exactly what they want to do. You could go park your 200 grand with 3 or 4 people that I know,
right?
Get your 8 to 10 and never do a thing, but get your mailbox money. And I can't guarantee anything, but if I had 200 grand, that's the 4 people I would put it with.
Right.
You would always want to do your homework. Because at the same time, you can get crazy returns in a non-performing space. It gets ugly too.
Yeah. It's a little bit more work.
Absolutely. And then when I was mentioning about my buckets, as much as I'm a non-performing buyer, over the last 4 years, probably 75% of my purchases have been reperforming loans.
Okay.
I can get great deals on ones that are scratch and dent, and then I can work them and get them resolved. And, you're buying them at discounts based off of a yield that you want or what the seller wants to sell it at. And everything's negotiable. So from my end, I sell streams of payments off my assets. So let's just say I have a mortgage that pays $300 a month and the homeowner owes me 200 payments. I could sell an investor, 40 of those 300 payments.
Like a partial.
Yeah. So no partial. That's what I do a lot, to be able to spin and leverage a little bit. You got to be careful with, like I said, with all the regulations and the crazy new tax law and IRA laws that they're trying to come out. And I try not to talk too much about this type of stuff out online. But it is what it is. I mean, you're not doing anything wrong. So just do a little bit of leveraging. And then when I first started, I did what are called collateral assignments. So, that same mortgage we were just talking about, let's just say there was 200 payments left that was paying me 300, but the UPB was, let's just say, and I'm just throwing numbers out, guys. I'm not sure if they all match up, but, let's just say I have a note that's, the UPB is 40,000.
Sure.
Well, instead of selling a partial, what I could do is collateralize an investor. Let's just say that investor wanted to lend me 20 grand. They wanted a 10% yield. So I would use that $40,000 loan as collateral for their 20 grand that they're going to lend me. They'll get their interest only payment every month. We do a promissory note on the side for, 1, 2, 3 year term. I'm a big 3-year term guy in this business. A lot of the funds do it. And if I'm going to take money on like a collateral assignment or that way, you're just being unrealistic. If you just can't turn it that quick. Everybody benefit. Yeah, from a non-performer to a performer, or
like in 1 year.
Boom, letting a performer season a little bit, maybe even a refinance.
Right.
I mean, we've had 4 refinances in the portfolio this year. I mean, they're powerful, man.
Right.
And I had one that I bought like 8 years ago in California that refied, and like I had all my money out of the deal already. Clearly, clearly you got to deal, you got to deal with taxes and all that great stuff. But that's why I got the S Corp, man. I'm a big Mark Kohler guy. You know Mark?
I do not.
Mark's an investor, accountant, attorney. He's just awesome, man. He caters towards like individual, like business investors like myself, not only real estate, but all avenues. So what they say about the S Corp, and once again, PMR II isn't an S Corp, it's just taxed as an S Corp.
Okay.
So what they say is if you can make like, basically, if you can generate over 50 grand a year for 3 years in a row, selling an item or supplying a service, the S Corp may be for you. When I mention S Corp, like I said, it doesn't own any assets. It doesn't own anything. It's just, I get paid a salary out of there. I create W-2 for myself. I was able to tap into all the paycheck protection programs, had them all forgiven. Not being a hog, just, 2 months of salary, all the stuff that I was able to apply for.
Right.
But Mark Kohler is a good guy, man. And he, like I said, it's not just real estate. He caters towards like the small business guy, family guy. And he's been deadly and powerful for me.
Sure. Well, it's getting kind of crazy with not so much about the S corps, but I think they're talking about some different legal action with the the self-directed IRAs with the people who are paying zero taxes. At least right now. I mean, this is what, October 2021, just to date it. But some stuff coming down the line that might make some movement with the money, which is kind of scary for some people.
It is scary, man. Because what's scary about it is what they keep doing is just affecting the middle guy, like middle business, middle people.
Yeah.
Because the reality is the top are always going to be able to keep their money. You're not going to get it. And
can't tax the rich.
They think, it's so, go learn what they're doing, because that's what I did. If you ask me what I did over the last 10 years, I set out to figure out how the top 1% keep their money.
Right.
Do I do it on a very small little scale? Yeah, but that's okay. I'm Bill McCafferty. I don't need a big scale. So
you don't need to rule the world.
I can see somebody making $400K a year and writing $300K off. Like that happens in the S Corp.
Oh yeah.
And that's for everybody. Like go set up. It could be any business. So it's just, you just got to, education's, how much you want to learn. I mean, that's the reality of it all.
Sure.
It's like even sending my son to college now. It's like so many people have mixed emotions on college and the cost of it and all that. And, everything that happened in my life put me to where I am. So it's sometimes I try, as a parent, you try not to smother it. You know, a
Right.
lot of us, you know, we're in a real estate world where everyone's like, school sucks, like business. Like I get it, but the
Yeah.
reality is like education's actually pretty cool, like meeting people.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, like I got you. Go to college. Like he's a football player. I said,
Oh,
figure
nice.
yourself out. Yeah. So like all that good stuff. But it's what we talked about earlier. The money makes it all. It just makes it easier.
Right. Right.
And you know, and how do all these people keep their money? And that's what's scary. They're going after the middle of the road people. Like, I mean, come on, dude.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. So yeah, definitely some interesting stuff to look out for. So with the second space, are you kind of, you know, just because with just interviewing different people, and you know, I myself, you know, I will originate notes. So what I do with my business is I'll, you know, buy a house and then I'll sell the house on that you know, on that note, and then I'll eventually sell the note. I'll just hold on to it for passive income. I invest in the Midwest. I just do a few deals a year,
Yep.
and you know, that's currently what I'm doing. But what I'm seeing is that people are offering me crazy outrageous prices for, you know, obviously mine are normally like a performing note, and it's, you know, it's always a first, there's no seconds. Have you seen the prices for those seconds been going up lately with the craziness of the real estate market, or kind of how has the seconds changed in the last like 18 months, or it hasn't?
Nah, absolutely. It's always been a huge factor. So I have a chart. It's a pretty cool chart that I have. I'll send it's in my course, but I'll send it to anybody that ever wants to reach out to me. I think it's pretty cool, and it's based off of what I see, my feelings,
Sure.
the marketplace. Because somebody might pay 80 cents for an asset. I just, you know, my limit in this space is 50%. Like,
Right.
but I also play a different, you know, I play the little bit of equity, no equity game. So my chart will tell you, you know, is the first mortgage current? Is it not current, or is it unknown? Because in our space, a first could be being paid on, but it's unknown for whatever reason. The homeowner went through bankruptcy and now it's not reporting to the credit report. The company that they're paying doesn't report the credit reports. One thing I found out when I got deep into this business is the credit reports. There's great information on it, but it's a big crock, is what it is. It's a big front, because some of them people that are doing the best, their credit reports are a disaster.
Hmm.
And the ones that have perfect credit reports can't even freaking get a bank loan or a car loan. So it's kind of a joke,
Hmm.
the whole credit thing. Um, so that chart will tell you, you know, what the first is. Because sometimes if it's unknown, you can look on a title report. You can see that the first isn't doing anything. There's no indication of anything. The taxes are current. The first is probably current. So they're unknown, but you can get them for a better price than a current.
Okay.
And then there's the other level, right? You buy big equity deals where maybe 20 grand bought you 50 grand in debt, but there's 100 grand covering your 50 grand. So big equity deal, right? Plenty to
Right.
liquidate. Same scenario, maybe, you know, a little bit of equity. And what I mean by that is you spent 20, the thing's worth 50, but it's probably only have 50 or 60 equity covering it. So you're kind of, you know, your 20 is protected, but you know, you might not get your full payday.
Right.
Or you may get your full payday. That's the crazy thing about this business. It's kind of what I was just saying about the credit report. It's interesting. The people with tons of equity in their property never accessed lines of credit or never utilized it. And yeah, as an investor, we see big equity. Doesn't mean they can afford what you're asking. So
Right.
it's interesting. And then there's no equity deals. You know, house is worth 200. First is, you know, 190, and you bought a 50, you know, that same
Yeah.
second, or an
Right.
upside down deal.
Right.
You can make money at every level. I mean, when I first started buying these in 08, 09, 10, you know, you're buying stuff at 5 to 10 cents loan on the loan balance, not off the payoff, on the loan balance, unpaid principal balance. Right now, anywhere from 30 to 70. I mean, there's definitely investors in my business that are just shocked what people are paying.
Yeah.
And we all, you know, think we know everything, and everyone's overpaying. And to me, this is a business. The more specialized you know it, and the more your skill is, you know, and the more results that you see, you're comfortable throwing, you know, I mean, my client just got a nice one. It was a real nice one. I'm gonna say he got it for like 80 grand. I would never in my life pay for 80 a loan, but I'm an individual investor. Like, he's a big fund and they're buying bulk.
Right.
He's getting like 175K payoff on that. So it's nuts, dude.
So that's pretty solid. Yeah.
But I could look at a pool of those and I can't determine like that's the one that's going to do that until you work them.
Right.
And put the pressure and, you know, let people get to work and see what they can do. So it's all over. You know, a guy like me, like I said, I want equity, but you know, I'll buy no equity seconds. I just wrote a whole market out. So I just saw stuff with no equity getting sold for 10 cents on the loan balance to this stuff being refinanced out fully over the last 4 or 5 years. And even if it crashes again, the same cycle will happen.
Right.
And that is one thing I just learned too a little bit, is the business model is decent right now. You know, we just went through a COVID. Yeah, I was worried about some of my homeowners not paying. I had to kind of stay on top of a lot of people, but it created a whole tons of opportunity over in non-performing side.
Sure.
So everybody's different. You know, and you can do as much due diligence in the world as you want on these things. I mean, you know, I think we out-talk ourselves as an investor.
Right.
And I think that's been the power of PMR II, is it's seen a lot of results that a lot of people haven't seen, even big time funds. It's because, you know, right now, like I said, I'm managing about 170, 180. They're 2 big clients, but I have like 20 clients, and all those clients are throwing legal at those loans. If you're an individual or just one fund, it's tough to throw legal at 180 loans. It just is very costly.
Right.
And as much as we know, or we think we know the results and what the outcome will be, a lot of crazy things happen in this business, you know, even outside of taking the homeowner out of the equation, getting a property to sell and it's selling at sale, you know, doing what you just said, getting possession of the property and then selling it on seller financing. I mean, there's so many avenues. And that's another cool thing about PMR II. Not only am I managing these loans for these clients, like some of these clients are like real deal major investors doing other stuff, and I'm just a little component to their big picture. I mean, what's cool about that is I get to hear all their information. I get to utilize them, their resources, and just, you know, your network's so powerful. I mean, that's just, you know, it's so cliche, but it is what it is. I mean, you know, you know, look at around the 5 people that you're hanging out with, and, you know, that's kind of where you're at.
Exactly.
And it's fun, you know what I mean? Because it's funny, because, you know, we talked, you know, I'm into live music. So, you know, you think all my friends that like live music are perfect people? Nah, you know, they're living their life, and that's what it is. But, you know, I can clearly see the individuals that I need to put myself around to better my business, my company, my mindset, myself, my growth.
You have your professional associates.
That's it.
You're still your old friends, right?
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
So you always remember where you came from.
Exactly. So, well, working with that on the whole entire seconds thing, I mean, you know, like you said, 1 out of 2 deals and everything like that. I mean, do you recommend people kind of like, when you're getting into seconds, to buy more instead of just looking at one? Like, is it kind of more of a diversified, you know, it's like a better idea to kind of buy, you know, 3 or 4 instead of just one? Or I guess what's more of your mentality, if you could?
Yeah, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And, you know, the reality is the more money and the more numbers, and the more you manage those, the better off you're going to be. Because the interesting thing about this business the whole time has been, it's not about how much money you have. You still got to be able to get the product and turn it. And it is funny to watch who gets the product and who doesn't. It's relationships and all that stuff that we, you know, that we talk about. Sorry, I veered away. What was exactly the question?
No, you explained it perfectly.
Okay.
You said, you know, just get into the seconds if you're going to buy one or buy multiple.
Yeah, so you know, it's definitely the numbers game, and you want to buy multiple. And like, I'm a big advocate of legal. Okay. And what I mean by that is I'm buying a delinquent loan. And I don't want to figure it out on my own. I want to let my processes and systems figure it out. So I send out a legal demand letter. I send some letters. And the whole object is to just get a read on if the house is vacant, somebody's in there, if it's a family member, a regular, you're looking for envelopes to come back or a response.
Right.
Clearly the legal demand letter gets the clock working for the foreclosure.
Sure.
And even if the homeowner called me on day one to resolve it, until it's resolved, I'm moving forward with that type of stuff.
Right.
So everyone's business model is a little different. And so I call it parking. So when you get to like day 60, day 90, the loan's parked, the collateral's all good. You own it. You send a demand letter out, your letters, whoever's in that house knows who you are. Now you need to make a decision based off of what you know now if you want to move forward with foreclosure. Clearly, we find the first is delinquent and they're about to go through sale in a couple months. Maybe we don't throw money at that, and it is what it is. We're going to work the other ones. But as long as the first is being paid on, I usually encourage legal. Even if there's no equity, as much as I take stuff to foreclosure sale and I deal with a lot of eviction stuff, I always want to resolve it at the end of the day.
Right.
I mean, these non-judicial states, you can just revert a sale pretty quick. But judicial states, you got to redo the mortgage and note, and I got investors that are different. Some want the property, some don't. It's not that they want the property, they'll just deal with it. They're house investors. So they'll deal with the property and try to get creative with it and have the resources. As powerful as I am, like I'm not an REO guy. I don't deal with a lot of boots on the ground. Like all my stuff is managed here.
Right.
To get these things to the table. So a lot of this stuff is we're going to just determine as we move forward. But it's a numbers game. I mean, a guy like me, if I can't buy more than one and I want to buy one, I'm buying one and putting it in to the portfolio. And that's what this is. And, as an investor, it's got to be about the portfolio, even if you're a house guy or no matter what you're doing, you got to keep the thing spinning.
Yep.
You can't expect them to take your profits out and the thing not to keep moving forward, and all that stuff. And, it's tough because, some of these investors are carrying a lot of money, and some don't. Like, I don't want to say I'm more relaxed or I'm easier to deal with, but, my one big client that I do just a loss mit for, the reason we set it up the way that we set it up is, I felt a little too much exposure by what he was demanding because he buys big equity deals and he'll have no problem pressing the gas and liquidating.
Right.
And, if I'm dealing with a family, a couple in their 70s, I mean, I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't stomach that, man. So,
yeah.
And I understand why he needs to do what he does because he's borrowing a lot of money. And if I want to keep working for him because it's been good, so we found a nice little medium where I still will handle the loss mit, but I don't talk to anybody.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And my name's not on anything.
Right. You don't want people getting out there too.
Nah, because it's the one thing that I've taken a lot of pride in. Like these homeowners that I help, I always tell them, like, when they work things out and everything's done and now they're paying the servicer and I'm kind of done, I still let them know, anything ever comes up you're uncomfortable with, reach out to me.
Right.
That goes far. Even when these loans get paid off, a lot of people, new investors, and it just gets lost in the mix, even with the big ones, satisfying the loan, the release in the county, recording it and making sure it gets to the homeowner and the servicer. Stuff like that, I take a lot of pride in. It could be like something that gets held up and like 6 months later, I get it over to the homeowner, and they're just happy that somebody followed through.
Right.
And that's been my staple. Everything I do, I try to follow through. I try to make them know who I am. I'm a real person as much as I'm playing the game. Who Bill McCafferty is, they can access me. So
that's a huge element of getting them comfortable to work it out. I mean, instead of, having that human element, that you're a real person, you're going to try to work with them instead of just being like, here, you need to pay this or we're going to kick you out. That's probably, a large part of your success probably comes from that,
It is, man, because I mean, it's tough because these funds and these note investors that buy these and want to work them out and then sell them as a reperformer, they get fixated on more about the interest rate and jacking the payment up and trying to extract the most they can get when they're about to sell the loan, not
Right.
about what the person can afford. And it's an in between, man. Like I get it as the investor that you want the high interest rate also to force them to refinance.
Right.
So it's a combo. And I love my name on my agreements in the marketplace. An investor that may know who I am or have heard of me, they buy something from somebody and there's my name on it.
Right. Right.
Like when I resolve something with a homeowner, I get the insurance information, declaration page, I get the third party authorization, first mortgage statement, I get W-9, I get the ACH, I get driver's license, and like the deal doesn't get done without all that. There's plenty of investors that just get the ink signed and have them send a check in and moving forward. And I just amazes
Sure.
me the investors that are still in my business that are very seasoned. And if they listen to it, yeah, it's a knock to you. I can't believe they don't get the documentation when they work these things out. Like they'll collect a $10,000 check from a homeowner, but you're not going to just get their documents. Like,
Yeah.
because me, it's like when I buy a reperforming loan, I want to be able to get put on, the insurance policy as lost pay as a second position.
Right. Right.
Um,
Instead of it just being
yeah, and like it's just real easy to request a declaration page when you resolve it.
right.
So stuff like that is what establishes, who you are and what creates a good product.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's so easy. Like the note space is so fragmented, one. So there's not a lot of info. There's a lot of information out there now, but it's very confusing. And then secondly, like if you never get caught, you never think to do that. So, if the house never burns down, they're just like, oh, well, I don't have to worry about it. But until the one time the house does burn down and they're not on that insurance policy, then it's like, oh,
Nah, man.
I need to start doing this, right? So,
Nah, and I own a lot in California, and it just,
yeah.
as years went by, and I have friends out there too, and like wildfires, and it just, I mean, it's just crazy. And it's, you start glancing back and, you really do want to make sure you're on lost pay. Now, the reality is there's ways to still be dealt with, but I mean, it's just nice to be listed as lost pay and,
Yeah,
and
makes
have
it
that
easier.
and have that information. Absolutely.
Right, right. Well, so let's talk a little bit, I guess, about, obviously you're, big time, so your name's out there, like you said. So you have a lot of access to find like the notes and everything like that. But for smaller investors, who aren't going to be buying maybe reels of notes, where are you guys kind of like sourcing these second notes? I mean, obviously the note investing business is extremely fragmented. So we got like Facebook, Paper Stack, all these different places. Are you just kind of looking everywhere and being nimble and just kind of always having your eye out there for investments, or is there any kind of secret places to look for seconds?
Nah, no secret places, man. I actually just, besides going up to like maybe like a PPR, my mentors, are
Right.
clearly at a whole other level. As deep as I have been in this business and as long as I have been in this business, I was just sharing with a bunch of people on Sunday that there's only one person that I know in this business that had direct access to institutional debt from a big bank. All the other stuff was just trickled down, and I don't really know who owned it when it was in MERS,
Right.
the big banks. And I'm not going to give that name out or anything, but
Sure.
everybody in the business knows who that is. And he's always has access to that lender. And it's been very powerful for them. And it's been awesome. But like I said, I've been in it as long as I have, and they're the only ones.
Right.
You know, I I personally have bought maybe close to 200 myself, and I only have ever gotten one from a regular bank,
Wow.
and that was 10 years ago, and it was
Wow.
just weird coincidence.
Yeah.
So at least in the second business, you're not calling banks. I don't see any success to that. And it's once again, we're going to go so cliche here, but it's the network and value add.
Hmm.
There's a couple conferences. Eddie Speed has Note Expo. There was just one, I think they did it virtual. What's her name? Lisa and Kimberly, two girls, and then Chad is the guy. They ran the DME or something. Supposed to be in Florida. Then they did it virtual. But that type of stuff is coming out. There's always stuff out in California. There's just a handful of them, and there's that first tier that you're going to want to go to, and they're like the ones that I'm talking about, like the note conferences. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of pitching and selling,
Right.
But there's going to be vendors there. You're going to introduce your stuff. You're going to, get yourself known, because that's what people want to do business with good people and know people.
Sure.
I'm in a business where just everybody, like even my course, like people they want product.
Right.
Buy my course and I'll get you product. And it shouldn't be that way. But
Well,
we never met. And the first thing you're doing is asking for product. You know how hard it is?
right.
So, paper stack. Is paper stack, people throw stuff up and try to get high prices on there? Absolutely. Have I
Yeah.
bought off there and got good deals? Absolutely. But like, you're not going to start seeing assignment chains until you buy a couple loans. I'm a huge fan of that. Like, once you dig into this business and see some assignment chains, it'll go right up the ladder to where the debt came from. And, you don't want to jump around people, but nobody really cares
Right.
in this business. I mean, even the big one that I was just talking about, one of their older employees is out on his own now, and he's kind of a middle ground for them to unload stuff, and he sells it to the public. Great guy. He's got his own business model. But they've even backed off of dealing with the public. So everybody's just different. There's no magic answer. And like I said, everyone's looking for, the best stuff.
Sure.
And, unless you get major connections, it's hard to come in with big money right now and just throw it at product.
Right.
And it coming into the business when I did to where it's at now, I've seen, major, just like all aspects of real estate. Once the big boys in Wall Street see it, they start rolling the money in and throwing it and scooping it all up and paying top dollar. And you have no idea what they're doing and why they're paying for it. So from my end, as much as I share with you what my services and what I do, it's to share with the audience also, like, what you have to do. So like PMR II, right? It put itself in the middle of 100 different investors buying thousands of notes across the country, doing all different aspects of real estate, asking me to resolve it. So I saw who was getting stuff worked out. I saw what investor needed to sell. So I put together myself a whole little roadmap that I could go whenever I needed stuff. Or I saw one client was hurting, another client was doing well. Well, let's do some selling and, just getting creative to try to keep everybody moving forward.
Sure.
So I took a lot of pride in that, and that just kind of opened that whole door up for me. So like my lost MIT client that I do for, and another reason I do just a lost MIT is it's big volume with him. I think he sent me over 100 notes this year alone.
Ooh.
And they're not 100 notes to work. There are 100 that the homeowners are reaching out.
Okay.
So they're, he's got a lot more still going on, but
Yeah.
I'm just doing well, I see the stuff that's getting worked out. Well, he's a fund. He wants to sell stuff too. They
Right.
buy and hold and collect payments, but I have a really good relationship with that guy too. I'm good friends with him. And, do I ask him every month for big pools and notes? No, but, 2 months ago, I wanted to buy, I had a certain amount of money. I bought 3 notes from him. And, when I need some more, I usually just go back to my 1 or 2 sources and try not to get too crazy.
Right.
And like I said, I have not been myself chasing non-performers. I call them paper chasers. The funds around me chase it, and I see where it comes from.
I got you.
So
So yeah, I think that speaks to kind of like a lot what you were saying before about these people who charge, 25,000, 75,000 or something crazy for these investment courses. But, it's really just about instead of spending all that money, just get started in the business because you have to make those connections anyways. Take that money, buy a few notes, and start working through them, right? And then you're going to build those connections, and you're going to get better.
It is true. And it's such a balance, like what you just said there, and it's kind of what I've been saying, but it's to a degree too in this marketplace where you might want to spend a little money to pierce that network. It might speed it up for you. Like I'm not saying go spend 50 grand and get nothing.
Right.
And I'm not pushing, and I'm not even pushing my $1,000 course. But do you think the individuals that spend $1,000 ask me where I get my notes, or what service you use, or
right?
The reason I'm not taking 25 is I can't commit to the time. Is the reality.
Sure.
I help people out and I'm always there, but if I'm taking 25 from you, like it's a full-time job. I just don't have that time.
Right.
You still get me. But it's exactly what you said. Like, you don't want to just go spend 25 grand and somebody taught you, this is a mortgage and this is a note and the beginner stuff. Like I get it. Like I definitely get it. And everybody's different. But anybody that's selling anything in the no business, it's already out there. I will shift and say, like a guy like Eddie Speed, who does the seller financing and the creative stuff, he's got a lot of cool stuff. Like I know some of his top students that are like awesome guys that have done a lot for me. And he does kind of stay up. And is he the face of note school and all that? Does he have partners and investors? Yeah. But, I think stuff like that is different than just, going out and buying a course or a mentor for 6 months.
Right.
And once again, I'm not even preaching, like, I'm not even, trying to sell Eddie or anything,
Right.
I'm just using a guy like him. You know what I mean?
He's credible. He's very credible.
Yeah. It's just, one thing that always caught that I thought was cool. I heard him say early on was, a lot of the gurus look for the 90% that really aren't going to make it happen. I want the 5% that actually have the money and want to make it happen. And if it doesn't work out, different clientele. And, and that's when you kind of saw who he was working with. And then you're introduced to a guy like David Phelps and you saw what he's doing. So just a lot of powerful stuff. And that's what's been awesome about this business. And it could also make your head spin is there's so many ways to make money in real estate. And I just see so many people chasing it and, always looking for something new or, this is dried up or whatever. And it's just,
what's the shiny object syndrome and how do I make money with the millions with zero down and all that type of,
and it's all powerful, but it's, what are you really doing?
But it's still going to take the same amount of time. I mean, I remember working for a wholesaler back when I first started like touring properties. He used to pay me to take pictures of properties and he was spending still 30 grand a year on marketing. So it's like, you're going to spend it on marketing, he's doing it with zero down, but he's still spending all that money on marketing. So, you're not guaranteed to get that return either. So yeah, you always got to invest the time. You always got to invest the money,
That's it. That's the reality of it all. And, I know a lot of like I said, people that are at all kinds of levels and it's interesting. I mean, there's people that spend 100K a year on masterminds and mentors and they're like, those people are making way more than 100 grand off of what they're getting out of that person. And it's and it all stems back to what we both know. It's like taking action. Like here we both are on a Sunday, football starting and, it's the commitment and the taking action. I mean, that's the reality of my world. Like if things aren't going well, I just need to get to my desk.
Exactly. Who's your football team?
I'm born and raised in southeastern Pennsylvania, so I'm a Philadelphia Eagle fan.
That's better than Pittsburgh, man. I thought you were going to say Pittsburgh. I'm a Browns fan. I'm a Brownie, so
okay.
Yeah, I can deal with the Eagles. That's okay.
Nah. I actually it was actually good that you weren't able to do the call Thursday night because about 5 minutes after I signed up and then you shared with me that you couldn't do it, I got invited to the Eagles game Thursday night. So
oh, that's even better.
It worked out perfect.
Well, we could have done it from the Eagles game. I'm sure you're a hardworking guy. You would have had your phone out and been like, "Hey, hold on, I gotta watch this." Well, shoot, man, that's awesome. I think that wraps it up pretty much for all the questions I got. Unless there's anything else you want to comment on. I mean,
That's it, man. Sometimes I know I will go off on stuff, but I just try to get as much information and real stuff across the table, you know. I think
I
that's
could I could sit here and talk for 2 or 3 hours more, man, for sure. I mean, you dropped some knowledge on us for sure today. I really do appreciate that. But
nah, I appreciate it because you know I definitely these are things I like to do, and I definitely get caught up in my stuff, and so I appreciate you reaching out.
oh no, not at all, not a problem at all. So it's an honor as well as a pleasure, everyone. Bill McCafferty, and if you got any questions, you got to take his course on his seconds, and also if you got any seconds that you need help possibly working out, reach out to him and see what he's got cooking. I'll put the links down in the bottom of this video, and till next time,
Thank you.
no problem.